Welcome back, everyone. I hope your week's been good. Mine's been alright. Lots of stuff going on in my day job. Some kind of beat, but not enough to get through today's video. Let's do it. Today we're tackling another big topic that I've thrown around a lot in recent videos and parts of the story: the Brotherhood of Light and the Council of Seven. They're a big deal in the history of the Iblan world, especially in the history of the Union. In fact, without the Brotherhood, there would be no Union. While scripting this video, I realized there's a lot about the Brotherhood that I didn't realize I'd get into. So, I'll be splitting this video into two parts. This week's video will be a general history of the Brotherhood and the Union, and a quick summary of their society, and next week's will be about their leadership/military structure. Now let's talk about the Brotherhood of Light. Where did the Brotherhood of Light come from? The obvious answer is the Union, but that's not entirely correct. The Brotherhood actually originates within Capital City, or Adhit-Yad as they called it. They were formed a few decades after the reincarnation of Iblis of Sanctuary, who brought an end to the bloody war that Adam had waged on the Ancients. After the disappearance of the Third Incarnate, the singular human nation that existed under Adam's rule split into countless smaller nations and began developing their own cultures and societies. Inside of Adhit-Yad, a grand cathedral was constructed in honor of Iblis, who had saved them from the servitude of two cruel masters. After the cathedral was finished, 7 of Iblis's former generals were compelled to return. Brought together by what they called divine providence, they formed the Brotherhood of Light and declared the sacred cathedral their base of operations. This new coalition formed the Church of Iblis, which quickly grew to dominate the city along with the Brotherhood as a governing body. It became apparent to the 7 generals that their mission was not only to bring the light back to Adhit-Yad, but to reunify the world under the banner of Iblis. With the power of the light behind them, the Brotherhood enjoyed millennia of unstoppable expansion. They called their country the United Nations of Iblis, a gesture of symbolism that the territories under their control were brought together in some way by the power of Iblis, whether it be by a military takeover or by a mutual belief and understanding of the will of Iblis. Nothing stood in the way of achieving their goal. Until the Ancenians came. Ancenia is another country with a history all on its own, but they met the Union with hostility. Both were sprawling, expansive empires that intended to unite the whole world underneath their flags. War between these two was inevitable, and it was not pretty when it happened. The Ancenian army was just as big, just as mean, and just as strong as the Brotherhood paladins. Eventually, after a few missteps, the Brotherhood came together behind a single leader and put an end to the war, winning this dire conflict and laying claim to the Ancenian lands threatening their own. This was a mistake that would start bringing down the Brotherhood. Within the claimed Ancenian territory was a small group of radicals who believed they would be better off ruling themselves. In the transitionary period between one ruler and another, these radicals became convinced that they were the proper rulers of the Union and started rebelling against the Brotherhood. Another bitter conflict gripped the Union as a civil war broke out. The ideas started by these rebels spread like wildfire, and the Brotherhood faced a difficult task in quelling this dissent. After centuries of back and forth with the rebels, they finally came to the Brotherhood's doorstep and laid siege to Adhit-Yad, a feat the Brotherhood had considered impossible. In an act of desperation, the Council of Seven used their combined power to bring down a spell of immense power, which would have devastated the planet. With the return of Iblis, the spell was averted. Iblis took control of the Brotherhood's armies and put an end to the civil war. Their failures that allowed the civil war to happen, as well as continue for as long as it did, forced Iblis to disband the Brotherhood. That's a heavily abbreviated history of the Brotherhood. So what did life look like during their reign? Well, their society was ruled by a theocratic oligarchy. All major political decisions were made by the Council of Seven, a group of paladins who worshipped Iblis and ruled in his name. So, the Iblanite religion was very prominent and very important to the people of the Union. And before you ask, yes, this is the same religion that would eventually lead to the Iblanites who antagonized Iblis of Light in Rebirth. Back to the point, Because the Brotherhood was everything, it was a great honor to be a paladin of the Brotherhood. Obviously, being a part of the Brotherhood generally puts you at the top of the social ladder, topping even wealth as a measure of social standing, although having wealth generally helps brothers stay on top. The Brotherhood ruled through respect and fear, and it would not be false to say that some of the brothers abused their positions to further enrich themselves, although the Council of Seven did their best to crack down on this behavior. If the Brotherhood requested it, you gave it to them. It was both your religious and civic duty to support their various causes, although they did make an effort to ask support from those who could give it. And to get to the meat of it, there were never any women in the Council of Seven, so men generally got to enjoy a slightly higher social standing in nearly every situation. There are a few notable exceptions to this rule. Number 1, the priesthood. Technically an extension of the Brotherhood, the priesthood was run exclusively by women. While Iblanite priestesses were just as capable as Iblanite paladins in combat, and many did join their brothers in war and died alongside them, priestesses were mainly responsible for healing the wounded. While men were not barred for joining the priesthood, it was seen as a disgrace to be a priest. Members of the priesthood were not required to go to war, and becoming a priest was seen as dodging your duty to Iblis. In fact, all Iblanite priests were castrated upon accepting their positions so that their bloodline could not taint and weaken the power of the light. Because their military service was voluntary, any priest or priestess who died in the line of duty was posthumously awarded the Brotherhood's highest military honors, which included a promotion to 5th, one of the highest rankings in the Brotherhood's military. Number 2, the Brotherhood. Now, while men were not barred from becoming priests, women were not allowed to become paladins for most of the Brotherhood's existence. During the Civil War, however, it was deemed necessary to allow women to train as paladins. Although there was some initial resistance to their joining, the later Brotherhood treated their sisters with the same respect and reverence that they gave to their brothers. A special exception in this class is the legendary Nora the Sunlight Paladin. From the time she joined to the disbanding of the Brotherhood, Nora remains the only paladin, male or female, to join the Brotherhood as a 4th. Number 3, motherhood. The Brotherhood never made an official mandate requiring its citizens to respect and honor their parents, but there was always an unspoken nod to the mothers of the Brotherhood's union. While there is no true answer to the question, where does magic come from in humans, there was always some understanding that it was passed down from mother to child. So mothers who gave birth to paladins, and priests or priestesses to a lesser extent, obviously enjoyed a small boost to their social standing. There are a couple of extra notes to make here. While uncommon, it did happen that paladins who became a member of the Council of Seven still had at least one living parent. In those cases, the mother of this paladin was held in an even higher regard than even her son. In the rare cases that a paladin became 7th, the highest ranked paladin and leader of their society, and still had a living mother, she almost immediately became the most respected and revered figure in the Union. The Brotherhood actually had a special commendation awarded to the mothers of the 7ths. Another important note is mothers who died during childbirth. Being one of the most complicated things we do in the real world, the addition of magic doesn't necessarily make childbirth any easier for the Brotherhood and their society. So, while the Brotherhood did what they could to prevent this from happening, those who died while giving birth were given special honors and were considered honorary paladins. The reasoning here was that the Brotherhood had a duty to protect and preserve life. In the process of giving it, the mother lost her own, and the Brotherhood viewed that as a failing to protect hers. So, while there was no true just compensation, the Brotherhood and Council of Seven sponsored a series of programs to assist motherless children. Now, when the Brotherhood came around and annexed a new territory into the Union, they knew it was imperative to keep the general populace placated while they imposed their own rule in the region. they found that the best way to do this was not through further forcing their military might, but rather through assimilating bits and pieces of the new culture into their old, although they adopted very few religious changes. This allowed them to mostly avoid uprising and unrest in their new territories. And that's really all the time we have for right now. Thanks for listening to part 1 of the Brotherhood videos. Next week we'll get into their governing/military structure, but first on Tuesday we'll talk about what the Children of Shadow know about the dealer. I hope to see you then. Hi, I'm Gabe, and it took me a lot longer than it should have to record this in Slate. If you enjoyed the video, please consider liking and subscribing so you don't miss the next one. If you want more content from me, consider following me on Twitter, where eventually I'll tweet some more. If you want to learn more about anything I'm talking about or catch some details I missed, consider buying my books. Links are in the description below. Also consider checking out the Tumblr, where I post side stories and art about the books that I can't really put anywhere else. Again, thanks for watching, and I hope you have a great day.